9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. Liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Roger Tower.
Welcome to the Alien Probe Podcast. It is Saturday, November 11th, 2023. I'm Doug, and joining me again today is Matt.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk a little bit more about Dr. Stephen Greer, one of our favorites, via the Shawn Ryan show, The Show, with Shawn Ryan. No, thank you. And with Shawn, we have Shawn's permission. We don't specifically have it, but he gives it.
Yeah,
he gives, just so this is number 65.
Yeah.
It's on the screen. If you have YouTube, like and subscribe. But if you have YouTube, you'll be able to see the show. I would, if you don't want to listen to it chopped up and listening to us talk about Stephen Greer.
Talk crap, no.
Then, talk crap about Stephen Greer. Then,
we love him.
Yeah, I love him and I don't love him. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It's a struggle.
It is a little bit of a struggle. So we're going to go. What we're doing is we're listening to Shawn's podcast and making our goofy comments, but kind of listening to Stephen Greer's, outlook on what's, and he knows for a fact.
That's a nice way to put it. Yeah, he knows for a fact.
I know for a fact.
That's
so
right.
Here we go. We're about, and by the way, this is episode 2 on this podcast. If you want to hear this beginning of it, I relabeled episode 1. So
Yes.
You can pick it up there, or you can go right to the Shawn Ryan show and check it. So we're going to start it up here. If I can find my cursor. Here we go. Oh, by the way, we got through an hour show, but only 35 minutes of the podcast. So here we go.
The president, national security people, what they know and what this group has. So what they know, it's like this is, just to make this real for people. When I was briefing years ago, the admiral in charge of J2, Joint Intelligence for Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral
the Admiral.
Wilson.
Yeah.
And that memo leaked out where he was debriefed by Dr. Davis, and everyone went, oh my God. And it states, I was there for a stand-up briefing, and what they don't know is that at the end of it, I asked the Admiral to help us get to, this is 97, this is 26 years ago. And he said, well, I don't know how I'm going to help with something when the best technology we can deploy, is a B-2 stealth. And this other group have objects that can do circles around the B-2. And he acknowledged that to me. I said, well, that doesn't mean you can't. He says, well, I can't.
So we have this technology? He's talking to an admiral now. Oh, no, he says they have it, but
Right.
they is the government above our government.
Right.
So they have it.
Right.
And what are they doing with it?
Yeah, right. Nothing. Cleaning it, shining it up, hiding it.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm just a little bit curious about what that's all about.
It's authorized. I said, well, where do you need the authorization? Well, he felt he needed authorization from the SecDef, who had already been waived off, and the president, which was Clinton at the time, who had also, I have a very interesting story since I saw you, but we knew that Clinton had been approached by George H.W. Bush and told, butt out, this is none of your business, dealing with the UFO issue. Because this was one of the very first things Clinton wanted to know about, because I knew people who lived at the White House with him. He was very keen on getting to the bottom of it, but the efforts he launched were torpedoed, and he eventually backed off of it. But,
Interesting.
Yeah, I know that whole story.
So the president, you always thought that the president of the United States could know everything.
Right.
And now we've got the Senate. We've got the Senate hearing. Is it Senate hearings? Well,
Yep.
The House of Representatives.
Yep.
We've got Tim Burchett, and now they're back in the skiff. Did you hear that?
I did. I heard he got a second
Yeah, they're going to get a second hearing,
Right.
but they're going to get they're going to go in the skiff also.
Is Grush going to actually be there? Because I kept hearing that he wasn't even there the first time.
He wasn't
Because
he didn't have a security clearance or
Right.
something, so they're making moves to try to get everybody the proper clearances. And why don't the people in the oversight, defense budget oversight committees
Giving them money.
they're giving the money? We're not allowed. Okay.
So here's some money.
You
You're
know.
going to do whatever you want with it because you can't tell me. That makes zero sense.
Well, billions of dollars.
Yes.
And we're in the whole trillions of dollars. And where's all this money coming from?
I heard what they need to do, and I don't even know if they can do this, is they need to get these corporations that are that are non-foilable, basically. They're the ones they need to get in the skiff. Because they're the ones that can literally talk about that, because at that point, I think some of that is not technically top secret. So it's business. They're
Well, the defense contractors, they need to. I'm hearing subpoenas are most likely coming out
let's
for
hope
this
so.
one.
Yeah. And Mr. Greer and his RICO. We might have to RICO a few people.
RICO it.
It's an ugly story of corruption and power being abused. But he did initially want to really find out what was going on, and it was a sincere effort. And there was an entire special operation stood up around getting that. But I have a very famous Hollywood agent and a superstar who was in a limo with
Superstar.
In a limo.
Use their names.
And he's in a limo.
Come on.
He left
Tell
office.
us.
And they asked about the UFO issue, and the president said, "Oh yes." He says, "But I was told by George H.W. Bush that this was none of my business and butt out," and it was made very clear. You're just you're only the president.
Temporary.
You get the drift.
Yeah, you have to.
Temporary.
You got to remember, it's interesting because one of my coworkers he's like, it's the CIA. Every time this comes up,
CIA.
it's the CIA. It's the CIA.
Stooges.
And it's like the CIA stooges. Which, when we say the CIA, why aren't we allowed to hear this? Well, the problem is they're labeling everything ultra top secret.
Yes.
You know, no matter how mundane it is or how,
Nope.
and then that gives them, the ability to not show us. Or now he's talking about an ex-CIA, HW was the director of CIA.
CIA, right, exactly, yeah.
So, I mean, he might know everything.
Right. And he's a permanent employee versus a president who's there for 4 to,
Yeah.
So
but he was, at that time, he was out, I think even at this time, he wasn't the director of the CIA when he talked to Clinton.
Right.
But he just said butt out anyway.
Yeah. I was told to tell you to butt out.
So just, you don't get to know. So the president, I'll say again, the president doesn't even get to know.
No, it's totally, it's not for his eyes, it's for, what is it, only...
For those eyes only.
Yeah, not for, that's right.
So, now, obviously, if we're going to have a constitution, the rule of law, and a democratic republic, that kind of thing cannot stand.
Right.
But because
Correct.
of the power and the money behind this group, it has stood. And, years ago, in 93, I was at the Wrigley Mansion, and I'll tell you, Shawn, it was a very interesting meeting. It was like late at night, 10,
that the
11
gum
o'clock
people?
at night, and it was a conference room
The
full
Wrigley?
of suits.
Wrigley Field.
And
okay.
they
Wrigley-
approached
the
me,
Wrigley
and
Mansion.
It was the fall of 93, just before I briefed CIA Director Woolsey. And they said, look, you don't need to be talking. They knew all about this meeting that was going to happen. And you don't need to be talking to the president and the CIA Director about this. They don't know anything, and they're not going to know anything. If you want to know, you talk to us. We're the WFO. We're the work for other contractors. We're the people who are working on these technologies and doing the technology transfer.
I almost thought that was a wrestling.
Yeah, the WFO. World Wrestling.
Work for other.
But now this again is above. It keeps coming out. It's above
Even the president.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's...
He's a temporary employee. He is not permanent. He's not, collecting millions of dollars on these.
Just move that down a little bit. Yeah, so I don't know, man. It's weird. You work for others. So who are the others? And my always is the question is, who are these others?
Right.
And who's the one that's saying, this is top secret? You can't
Right. Who's
see
running
it?
that show?
Burchett. Who's the guy? Well, it's the 8.
Yeah.
The big 8 or whatever.
Yep.
Those, I think, as I dug into this, it's that group, I think, is...
I think you're right.
Right now is I would hang my hat on that.
Yeah.
And then they were trying to convince me to side with what they were doing. And I said, no. I said, this is a corrupt enterprise.
Yeah.
And then he offered that he says, you're a doctor, you can take out as many credit cards as you want. We'll zero them out each month because we run the supercomputers that back up the entire banking system.
So now we know why we're trillions of dollars in debt.
That's exactly why. Right. I do love this because he kind of hits on all of it.
Yeah.
So.
It's not that I don't believe him necessarily. It's just that why him? How does he get access to all this? And why are they entrusting him?
And it's same, but some of it's like, what do I believe and what do I kind of question with a lot of what he says? Because he goes through a lot of stuff.
If you know, he's the one that should get offed.
Yeah, right.
It's like
with us.
Does he have bodyguards?
Yeah, right.
Because he's talking about everything, but there's not a lot of specifics when he's not giving. I think he says he knows names, but he doesn't say them for obvious reasons. But
they have 750 whistleblowers.
750.
That number,
and we can get an infinite amount of money
for a
through
fact.
certain techniques. And so we'll just zero them out. I said, then you're going to own me, aren't you? Because isn't that credit card fraud and banking fraud? He says, no, we're just trying to help. You see how these... This is an absolutely true story. He put me under sodium pentothal lie detector.
For a fact.
But at the end of it, he said, look, we have given at least... Now remember, this is 30 years ago. We have given at least 10,000 people $10 million apiece or more.
Were you around when they were doing this? Because I really wish I was around to be getting $10 million.
They don't care enough about what I know.
Yeah, that's true.
The thing is, I tried to do the math on 10,000 times 10 million, and I tried to do it on my calculator on my phone, and it wouldn't go
even
up that high.
So wow.
So 10, I guess people are out there, guys, don't you know math? Well, I don't know that 10 million times 10,000 is a hell of a lot of zeros.
Right.
So, that many zeros plus that many zeros.
It's your deficit problem.
Is going to be, this trillions of dollars. Well, now I find out where the national debt's going. We're wiping people's credit cards out every month.
Right.
I'm in.
Yeah.
To secure their cooperation with this project.
Wow.
And that was 30 years ago. Now, money is no object if you're printing the stuff up and you're running drugs and you're trafficking and you're siphoning off from the legit.
Why? Okay, this is another
I already know what you're going to ask.
Why do we need to be running drugs?
Right.
If we can wipe out credit cards every day?
That was immediately as soon as I heard that was what I was thinking. Why?
Yeah, and that's...
And the other one was do the people thing too, right? Wasn't he claiming that they were, when you're selling people, basically? That's like, why?
Well, there's 10,000 people that this has this benefit. Nobody's talking.
Right. And it was 30 years ago. Imagine doing the money count. Well, how much is that now? If you catch up with the...
Hope they adjust it for
economy.
cost of living.
Yeah.
Legitimate black budget, which there is a legitimate black budget that's overseen by the president and the key people in the Congress. We're totally legitimate. But a lot of money from that is siphoned off and is through overbilling to the government into these illegal projects.
Yeah.
It's absolutely embezzlement. So we can prove this.
See, that's the part that scares me. We can prove this. Doesn't that put a target on him?
Yeah, and maybe he needs to go in the skiff. But the thing is, what they do is they put it in and Grush kind of touched on this, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that they put the money into a legitimate project. Let's say this is a very old and simplified SR example, but let's say the SR-71. We know Lockheed's dead in the middle of this. Okay?
Right.
I mean,
always.
I'm Lockheed, Raytheon.
Yep.
These guys are dead in the middle of this. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know for a fact.
Right.
But I believe.
Yep. I think you're right.
So, it's so they funnel it into a legitimate project, and then the government just says it's going to the SR-71 project. So they just get a check, and that money doesn't really go to. Some goes to probably or whatever, but then,
not all of it.
We need it for this, but do they? Nobody's looking at.
There's no receipts.
Specifically, what it's going toward at the project.
$1 million hammer.
Yeah.
How many of these did you buy?
Yeah. Give me 12.
10,000 $10 million hammers.
Yeah, and that's probably when we did the $10,000 hammer back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. That's when we started looking at things.
That's when we started questioning it. Yep. Where is this more?
Well, we should have looked at it a little more, apparently.
Yeah.
It happened. Okay. But I think that when you look at that and you go, okay, well, this is where the center of power is. The center of power is not in Congress. And it's not in the White House.
No.
And it's not in the legal constitutional government.
No.
Or the main part of the Pentagon or agency. It's in this group. And it's amassed so much power and wealth and technology that it is, and I'll be blunt, a threat to all life on Earth. It's a threat.
Why? Who's the group? I put that.
I know.
I was like, who?
Who
gets to say you can't see anything?
The $1 million question.
Who's that? Well, the CIA. Well, what was it? Department of Defense told me. Okay, well, who did it? Was there just a thing that said DOD on your email?
Yeah, he's got
and no person
name tag. Department of Defense
and
guy.
it just said you can't have access. Love DOD.
Right.
Who told you? There's got to be a guy. There's got to be a girl. There's got to be a whatever.
People. We need names.
Who?
It's way greater threat than China or Iran or Russia, ever. And I think people have to take this, what I just said, very seriously, because all these other skirmishes, even if there were a couple nukes detonated, is nothing compared to the risk this group poses, given the technologies they possess and the intention to use it in a malevolent way, where they could stampede the whole world onto a trajectory that would be, an Armageddon.
On Twitter, I can't remember who it was. I probably shouldn't say their name anyway. But they said they're going to release I don't know if it's 0-point energy, but that's the energy that all you need is a box at your house.
Yep.
Did you read about that?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
You just have a box at your house, I guess, and you'll be able to get this energy from wherever, however they're producing it, or
an unlimited amount of it.
Yeah,
too,
no power lines.
Wow.
So PG&E's going to be happy.
Yeah, they're going to be gone.
Yeah,
that's going to cause problems.
Well, and they say that, when the thing is, there's no, that's going to put the oil companies out of business. We're still going to, how you make plastic?
Right, oil, exactly.
That technology is not going to allow us. We're still going to need water delivery systems.
That's right.
That is not going to solve that.
No.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to.
When you have to build your pool and you have a floor system that has 10 million miles of pipe, it's going to need to come from somewhere.
Yep.
Anything plastic. How much is plastic?
Everything. Everything. In this room,
it's going to be greatly reduced because ultimately, fossil fuels, are going to be, we're still using as much. It always cracks me up.
We're still using as much.
Because this electric car thing,
Oh,
EV.
God. You got to use more fossil fuel for that electric car, don't you?
Well, how does that... It's kind of funny that I put a cartoon, I don't know if I showed you on Facebook, where the guy had his car hooked up to the electrical thing, and the electrical thing is plugged into the power.
To the power, yeah, exactly.
It's like,
yes,
are we really using less?
I know.
Well, we're probably using somewhat less. But then what are we doing? We're going to go on a rant here.
Yeah.
This is why we don't make an hour.
That's right.
With one subject. The part 2, part 3.
At 16.
Yeah, and it's, we don't seem to be using less fossil fuels.
We're just redistributing where we're getting it from, and it's the same.
And is the price, for those of us who like gas-guzzling beasts like I do, is the price going to go up when we're using less, or is it going to go down?
Right. It's probably going to... Nothing goes down.
Nothing goes down.
Nothing.
Scenario. So, unfortunately, these people are serious about it. They're whacked out, in my opinion.
This is weird.
One of the knock I recently met with, he says, yeah, well, even in this world, that he's been in this super black, dark world.
He's scaring me.
Very high up, relatively high up, mid-level anyway. And he said the way for the folks who are these really super rogue operators, they're recruited for being sociopaths or psychopaths. Now he says, I was recruited because I was willing to kill on behalf of the country or what's right, but not being a sociopath, to do it for the good. If you're going to use lethal force or any technology. These folks running these projects are a subset of people who are screened who are, in fact, sociopaths.
This is kind of where it went off the rails for me.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I know, no, it's not. Again, not that who's to say whether or not this is true?
Yeah.
But who's diagnosing these people?
Right. He is. He's a doctor.
I don't think he was a psychologist.
No, he wasn't. He was an
ER guy. He was an ER surgeon or something.
Yeah.
So, and who's to say? It sounds like somebody's opinion.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is an opinion.
He just hired, because if you have a whole slew of people like that, you're going to have some problems.
Yeah, and
they don't necessarily
that you can't contain. That's going to get out.
And are those people the ones that can really keep a secret? You know what I mean? When you have that kind of a psychological disorder.
Right. Yeah, I think he's just that's his opinion.
So I don't know. It's
they've got to be somewhat not too crazy because
they're good liars,
right? Extremely.
You know? And an argument could be made for, like, not a big Lazar fan, but
he said the name though.
Yes, he said the name. I will acknowledge his existence, but not as level as a credible UFO witness.
I can't argue with that.
I sent you.
I'd like to.
I sent you the facts.
Yes, that guy is compelling.
But that's again an opinion of that German.
Yes,
that's the German guy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, he was very compelling. Though.
Sounds like Hans Gruber. You know who Hans Gruber is?
Oh God, it sounds familiar.
You watch Die Hard?
Oh God, the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the bad guy.
Oh, that's right.
That's
okay,
Hans
that's
Gruber.
right. Yeah.
He's the guy at the end that he threw off the building. So yeah, they're like, what does this have to do with UFO?
And psychopaths. I'm using this clinically as a doctor.
Oh,
4.5%
you're not a psychologist.
Population are sociopaths and psychopaths.
Wrong.
So and the ones that are high functioning.
Oh, high functioning.
Identified and moved over into these.
Get promoted.
rogue.
Yeah, hey, I got promoted. I'm high functioning, buddy.
Smart. Extremely smart.
So the military identifies sociopaths and psychopaths
Clinically.
in their ranks, and then they bring them over to these black projects. And we say military, we don't know who they are.
Yeah, you're dark, deep. What do you say?
Deep, dark,
Black.
rogue projects.
Yeah, that's scary.
Let's take
It's a little too late.
I got a question from a friend of mine. I tried to connect you guys. I don't know if you guys connected or not, but my friend Chris Beck, and he just said an idea to run by you. Does this theory line up with UFO sightings? And then the question is it easier to see UFOs in grays in early hours, 1 hour before sunrise to an hour after sunrise? The ultraviolet of the sun is
That's an interesting
the ultraviolet
question.
of sun is
I don't
highest
think it
in
matters.
these hours.
Yours was at night,
To
though.
see-
With
Right.
The orbs.
Reppy-
The first one was
Is
daytime.
hour
Oh, yeah.
before and
When I was
hour
younger,
after
but
sunset
it was at
because
night.
infrared is highest in these hours?
Almost 10 o'clock.
Well,
wow.
actually, it really depends on what modality they're operating in. So what that means is an interstellar vehicle. Now let's distinguish between the ones that we have
And
versus
This
the ones
isn't really the
interstellar.
crazy train part of
They
it.
This
can
isn't,
fade
yeah,
in and
it's
out of
building.
this.
It's building the off the rails. part.
Instantaneously. So you could have one right over your building right here. No sensor would pick it up because it's actually shifted the frequency of it out of linear space-time. So this is what I call trans-dimensional physics. And then in an instant, nanosecond, it could be.
Yeah, and that could be a reason why they come onto radar and then all of a sudden disappear.
Disappear, yeah.
This trans-dimensional thing is really...
And then we've heard that in so many cases, like the one you just sent me with Ronald Garner. He talks about the trans-dimensional. When
Yeah.
they try to shoot it, it literally goes in a whole dimension, so nothing happens. It does nothing. It's zero.
Well, that's probably why they can't shoot them down. I mean, I would think.
I know some they can. And again, I think a lot of people go, this is that one being that one race. There's more than one. There's so many different descriptions. So I think some they have taken down because they according to Gresh, they literally have double digits.
Well, and also with my pet theory, they could be intradimensional. They could not be from another planet.
That's
Maybe they're us from the future.
Yep. Yeah.
And here they are in this special time trying to save us from ourselves.
And we're shooting them down.
That's how we thank you.
Shoot first, ask questions later.
That's how we thank you.
3D, or it could be something in between. So it's a little bit, if you've ever had a rheostat for a dimmer switch or something, you can make it brighter, dimmer, turn it all the way off. So those technologies allow for an object to be fully in 3D or shifted dimensionally, literally, into another dimension and back. Now, these are not interdimensional, they're more transdimensional because their origins are another star system. They're also interdimensional objects, and those are things from another dimension. That is not from the material cosmos, but they can be confused with some of the extraterrestrial phenomena. It's a very complex thing. So in terms of seeing these objects, I think people, when it's not super bright, with the sun, you're going to see more an object that's going to be silhouetted than in bright sunlight.
Okay.
And the other issue, I think, is that the ones that we have can also operate in a way where they are substantially have an electromagnetic field around them that can kind of cloak them, but under certain lighting conditions and radiation, let's call it infrared, ultraviolet, it depends on the condition, you can get a glimpse of them as they're moving. So I think that this gets into understanding the underlying technology and physics of how these objects work. And that's why when we're doing our expeditions where we're going out, making contact and looking, we have a whole set of protocols, and I train people on what to look for, what the phenomenon might be. If you're having cameras, whether it's settings. I don't do camera work. Full disclosure, I'm an idiot with cameras. But
now we know.
So that you have it set properly, and also know what to look for. But I think that the technology determines more than the time of day. But the time of day might facilitate. That's why I think when it's still light, but it's not bright light, and that spectrum, you'll see an object more easily.
Okay.
But I think it has to do with, I don't think it has to do with the actual innate occurrence. Yeah. I think it has to do with
what we can see.
What we can see with these things.
Okay.
Are ours. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. When you're talking transdimensional, how do I even ask this? When you're talking other dimensions, what does that mean?
Well, the universe, let's call it the cosmos, it's described by astrophysicists as sort of this 3D thing. Now, if you look at quantum entanglement and the concepts of the universe being a holographic conscious entity, which it is, then you start talking about not just material, but you're also talking about other dimensions that are at refined levels of frequencies and vibration. So the speed of light, the speed of electrons, atoms, what have you, all of that would pertain to what we call the 3D, three-dimensional. If you were to cross over that in frequencies, and this is, again, where you start getting into some very strange WSFM, like I mentioned, phenomena, then you're talking about other embedded dimensions. But it's not like it's some distant place, it's folded within. So, a hologram, if you look at a hologram of Marilyn Monroe with her dress blowing up, like that. If you were to just zoom in on one little piece of that dress on the edge of her skirt, and zoom in on it, the entire image would be in there, and zoom in again, it's holographic. So you have to kind of get your mind around the cosmos is this conscious quantum hologram. And so there are many, many, many dimensions, not just this plane of 3-dimension, that is all in full.
How do you get your head around the fact that, or the concept, I should say fact, I know for a fact, different dimension thing is really weird.
I get kind of lost.
Yeah.
I don't get my head around that much.
Yeah, I don't. I can figure out a lot of stuff.
You really have to be into physics, I think, to completely be able to understand a lot of that. And
Yeah.
I'm still at 1 + 1 equals 2.
Within it. So a lot of the confusion happens where everything like something weird like a poltergeist event will be conflated with something extraterrestrial. Well, it isn't. It was someone who, like in the ER, I had this happen once. Some guy that was killed, couldn't save him. It was murder, and he was angry. And at 3 a.m, he started taking all the stuff out of the cabinets. But he wasn't there. It was just his spirit. Weird stuff. So that kind of phenomenon.
That doesn't get reported.
So now he saw a ghost.
Yeah, he went from
Or he assumes.
He's throwing it all in there. It's all going in the hat.
Well, that's why when I sent this to you, I'm like, holy crap.
Right.
2.5 hours.
Right.
And we are exactly, we have an hour and 45 minutes left.
Expect a part 3,
This is
folks.
the point where Debbie'd get up out of the chair.
Yeah, she's gone. She's out.
How many episodes is this going to have to turn into? Yeah, it's weird. But the poltergeist thing is an interesting.
It is all connected. Look at Skinwalker Ranch with the whole, hitchhiker effect.
Yeah, and it's
according to them,
I kind of can figure out that, or I kind of can understand how maybe ghosts are. Maybe it is an interdimensional thing. Maybe there really aren't. He said it was a dead guy, or maybe his spirit.
I think it's a time thing. I think time is everywhere at all times, all the time. So how it gets all crisscrossed and maybe that's why we're thinking it's ghosts. Something's moving here because it's literally here in a different dimension.
The shift,
and I think it's a ghost because it's not here.
Yeah, Yeah, if you get a chance, watch that Interstellar. Matthew McConaughey.
Yes.
See that?
Yes. Yeah.
At the end, where
I don't remember seeing it.
Yeah, it's interesting about the time shift and
Nice.
how it looks like a ghost because he's back on Earth.
Right.
I
gotta watch that.
To everybody.
Isn't extraterrestrial? It's interdimensional. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay, so I'm trying to do some very kind of crude analogies, but the confusion comes in is that if you're an interstellar capable civilization, which means you're going from point A in the cosmos to here, B, it's like if this were a piece of paper, you're not going a straight line across the paper, you're folding the paper, being space-time.
Okay.
And so these 2 points are here.
Have you ever seen an example of that?
Your buddy Lazar had a great example.
Yeah, he's copying Lazar.
Right.
Where you just fold it and then you stick it, and then you just take the. And then they're not going from here to here. They're folding it, and then you're poking. You poke the pin through.
Yep, and you're going through.
That's how you do it, and that still doesn't really explain.
We're talking early '90s, I think, when Lazar pretty much. That was the first time I heard of it.
Are you getting cold?
No.
Okay, because
I'm excited.
I have to explain about our HVAC system.
Okay.
That's the point where everybody fast forward. If they haven't already. So
it's like a hospital.
We had in the game room.
Right.
Would not get heater. Did I tell you the story already? It would
I think
not
so.
get heat.
Yes.
So anyway, we'll go right to the end then. So we had a fan put in the to push the air through.
Yeah.
But then when they went up to fix it, a lot of the ducting was we barely were getting anything throughout the years. But now they've got it hooked up, so when you turn it on, it sounds like a jet fighter landing in all the vents. So if I turn the air on, or the heat, at this time of year, you would hear it probably pretty prominently.
Is there a jet landing on your roof?
I had to text Deb during one of this because I didn't want to cut the show. Hey, can you turn off? On that note,
the plane's landing.
I'm enlightened now.
And so, but in the process of doing that, this sort of bending and altering space-time, you then bump up against and cross these other dimensions. and this is sort of the intersection between what some people call metaphysics and physics, or the conscious worlds and the worlds of light, if you will, the mystics would call astral, and extraterrestrial technologies. And it's a very interesting intersection. I find that the most interesting part of this whole subject, but it quickly, you have to be, you go in the crazy town way too quickly.
Crazy town.
You're already at the
Don't
station.
talk about it intelligently, in my opinion.
You are running crazy town, bro.
dangerous.
You are running
You're
crazy
the mayor.
Those capabilities can be technologically stimulated to occur. It's like the Skinwalker Ranch. After a certain cell of this
Oak Island with UFOs.
Yes.
started setting up phenomena there. It's absolutely
Are you watching it?
man-made,
I am.
high-end electronics, but
I think I'm done watching it. I'm
It's
waiting
like the
for the
show
next
Stranger
one. Yeah.
Things. I've never
Yeah,
seen
they
it,
got
but
me.
That's
I'm
based on
hooked.
some
Did they
weird
find the
stuff
UFO
going
in the
on
Mesa?
Okay.
Okay.
I gave up. They never even got it.
I didn't
We
think
know
so.
what those are. I know guys who've been in laboratories where they have a toroid or one
That's
of
the
these
hook.
devices, and suddenly they're pulling in spooky-looking creatures that look like they came out of the ninth ring of hell. And they,
Yeah. Okay. Have you
Hey.
seen Hellboy?
Yeah, yes, I have. I
The
love that
beginning-
movie.
I love it too. You mean what he's talking about is the like what happened in the beginning.
Yes.
When all those other creatures came in.
Yep.
Well, actually, they didn't have a bunch of creatures. Just Hellboy,
Yeah.
I guess, came in on that one.
Every metalhead has to like Hellboy. It's part of the introduction.
We have to take a minute to acknowledge your friend, the front loader driver.
Oh, JB, the most badass front loader driver in the universe. Thank you, JB, for watching the show.
We'll expect that
Thank you.
advertising check.
Yes, yes. You better
shortly.
push it.
they literally become 3D and are running around the lab. Weird stuff.
Oh,
All right,
scary.
so the
That would
high
freak
end
me
of
out.
the WSFM is this sort of thing, but that can be used in a deceptive
Ninth ring of
indication in the
hell.
morning. It can be used in a way that everyone on planet Earth would think that it's alien, and it isn't.
I see what you mean.
Okay, so this is the real danger in all of this not being disclosed and known, particularly by policymakers and the government and Pentagon and all these folks, is that they're not going to be able, they're going to be so easily gaslit and deceived by people presenting all kinds of phenomena, plural, as extraterrestrial when it isn't. Because they have mastered the ability of this, what's called stagecraft. That's literally what it's called in some circles. And this gets back to this whole question of Project Bluebeam, where they could stage. But what their capabilities are way beyond what most people think they are.
Yeah, he pushes
And
us
I
a lot.
began working with some of these geniuses.
ET versus Rogue projects. I noticed he says this a lot in the last year and a half or so.
Really?
I mean, that whole thing that after, so this is July, and then a few months later, he had the whole 0 point energy. He pushed
Yeah.
the Rogue thing versus what an AT craft is.
Yeah.
How he knows the difference, I have no clue. But
Getting back to that 0 point energy, I don't know if that's the same as the energy can be beamed to our house in the box. I don't
pretty
know.
much, yeah. No.
Or
fossil
that's
fuels.
the technology.
Yeah.
You know, you want to fix your headphones.
Oh, is it off?
It's crooked. We don't want you crooked. Because so many people are going to be watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of Tesla. I mean, it keeps coming up. Tesla had that. I think he had that technology, and that's why he didn't get killed. He just got
Pushed out.
pushed aside and stolen his ideas stolen.
Yeah.
And then locked up because
Hydro. Remember that? You ever heard the story of the hydro engines?
Yeah.
The guy who had the hydro
He
engine.
could use water.
I think he did get killed.
They get
According
killed, or they give the other thing. Well, he
Bought
actually
out
talks about this.
Yeah.
Is that they just pay him so much money
Yep.
to
Take it.
buy that.
Get rid of it.
They patent it and buy it, but it has a patent.
Right. There's no money in that.
Yeah,
no, we're not
but
doing
we'll
that.
give you millions of dollars.
Yeah, screw the rest of civilization. There is no money in that. Stop
I am
it.
excited because that guy says that we're going to have that box with the energy
Yeah.
in the air like next year.
How much are we going to pay for that? I'm sure.
Well, now it's not going to. You know, it's not going to be free because
nothing's free.
It's going to have some sort of infrastructure.
Yes. Yep.
You know, and people are going to have to run it and make sure your little
right.
box. You got to buy that little box, which will cost you $10,000.
We're all going to walk around with it on our chest.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
just to, we had so I can
Well,
run.
it gives me more energy. I'm in.
Yeah. You're going to be running up and down the street with this box on.
Have it in your car,
down.
little one in your car.
Yeah, slow down.
I'm kind of excited.
Back in the early 90s that I met who in late 1950s and 60s had figured this out. So the electronics and the very high-end electromagnetic field systems that can do this were unpacked pretty well by between 1955 and 1965, in that a decade.
So with the different dimensions, there's another dimension in this room right now, and we just can't.
Within this folded, it's the enfoldment, it's quantum entanglement. So
Good
what
gosh.
Einstein called the spooky effect, where the same particle be in two places at once.
You just lost me.
But
No, I'm
visualize
kidding.
that at every point in space and time, at this level of quantum entanglement, you have access to any other point in space and time, but also these other dimensions, up to and including the most rarefied, what some people would call the conscious being, the unbounded consciousness. It's all folded within this in what I call
What?
the real cosmology,
Folded.
understanding of cosmology.
Folded.
way
Neatly?
beyond astrophysics, current astrophysics. But I think that's the part of this where when you start experimenting with and reverse engineering an extraterrestrial vehicle, their communication systems are not based on the speed of light like our cell phones, right, or video. They're based on this understanding of the cosmos because they've lived for millennia in that understanding. And so this is why,
This meaning we have no idea how it works.
Exactly. There you go. That's just a word for going. We have no clue what the hell
Well,
this is.
that's my
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
I
is that
strongly agree.
This is the drop the Harley Davidson on the Mayflower concept.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's a spaceship. Yeah.
You know? Well, let's make it work.
Yes, yeah.
It rolls.
Yeah, there's buttons.
Oh, I did this and I can make it roll.
Yeah. That's
And then it starts.
And it's
but
heavy.
then I want to make another one of these.
Right.
Because I could get around really fast.
Imagine them back engineering a Harley on the Mayflower. I'm pretty sure they're not getting very far with that.
They have wood tools.
And I'm pretry sure we're facing the same dilemma.
This is what
when
we're
they drop a
facing.
craft.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, we've got this craft. Another thing I've discussed before is that I don't think these things are made in gravity. I think they're actually made in zero gravity
Yes.
and different.
I've heard that many times.
That we can't replicate how they're made. And then, if you believe the Bob Lazar story.
Second mention. I'm gonna write that down. Second mention of the
This is what happens with Trump, too. This is exactly what happens with Trump. People that don't like Trump. But we keep... We're not going to start talking about Trump. But we're bringing Lazar to the same thing. I'm stepping on my own feet because I keep bringing Lazar up because I don't believe him, but I keep talking about it. So that's the thing with Lazar. But if what he says is true, they actually couldn't figure out that little... dome.
Yeah, I think you're right,
And
though.
one guy couldn't figure it out. So he decided, this is another part of the story, that he decided he would use I think he used a plasma cutter.
Right.
And decided he wanted to open it up
Open it
using
up.
that because they couldn't figure out how to open it up.
Yep.
And it caused a small thermonuclear explosion.
Boom!
Which I guess didn't destroy the whole S4 facility, just that office.
Yeah, wow.
And it
That's
killed
kind of
the
a
guy.
small little nuclear.
But it didn't kill. That's because this is the guy, and that's the guy that allegedly that Lazar replaced.
Yes.
Did you hear that story?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I keep talking about it.
Yeah.
we talk about the fact that they have technologies that interface with directed thought. I call it, technology-assisted consciousness. and consciousness that
AI?
assists the technology, so they can interface bioelectric field and thought, and they navigate the spacecraft.
Shit.
Really, really crazy. I mean, Elon Musk is trying to do some stuff with Neuralink, but he's still using wires and at the speed of light.
I agree, Sean.
But the idea would be the same, that your thought could actuate to a technological interface that would then not only be used in communication, because what's that? The speed of thought versus the speed of light.
Yeah.
But think about why that's so important. If you're from the Andromeda Galaxy, which is 2.5 million light years from here, at the speed of light,
That's where I'm from.
your cell phone, it would take 2.5 million years for a signal to get there, and another 2.5 million years for them to answer, and you hear it. It's 5 million years. So when I talk about this, I say there are certain technological thresholds you have to have crossed if you're an extraterrestrial interstellar civilization. Those technologies have, the good news is we understand them, and they could be used to great purpose on Earth. Energy generation, healing, all kinds of things, medical. But right now, they're in the hands of the worst group of sociopaths that have ever lived, and they dwarf, by far, Stalin or Hitler.
Dang.
In terms of their intention and their capabilities.
Dr. Greer laying it down.
What is their intention? They have it.
War machines.
Or they're using
to control.
They did this to say they have it. I mean, why
No.
aren't just where is the technology?
Yeah, we haven't seen it. Okay, well, some people may have seen it. But right, what's it waiting for?
So the sociopaths have it, which is even scarier if that's true. But so they're just keeping it.
Yeah.
But they're using it to run drugs so that they can make more money.
Yeah, and to exploit
but yet
people.
they can zero out your credit card.
Yeah.
There's some inconsistencies here, Dr.
You're
Greer.
making sense here. You better stop.
Way beyond. It's not the buffoonery of the
Buffoonery.
Third Reich. This is the high-tech, very dangerous end. Now, this to me is, as a doctor, I tell people this is like a knife, I can use a knife to put butter on my bread, or I can use it to slit your throat. Now, so technology is neutral.
Only a doctor would be able to.
Yeah,
come up
that's
with that.
right.
The consciousness and the intention of those who wield it, who have it. In this situation right now is the worst of all worlds, because you have the most amazing, wonderful technologies in the hands of the worst group ever, that have quite a bit of malice and intention. So this is what I think.
Yeah,
has to be
worst
fixed,
group
and
ever, and I
that's
kind of just
why
put the closer
disclosure
project.
project is trying
I didn't
to move
intend
this
for it to look
along.
like that.
First,
Little
yes,
play
we
on
established
words.
UFOs are real. Well, that was known in the 50s, 60s, and 40s. But now what's behind all that? Unpacking all the detail. And the reason the scientific end of this is so important, even for operation.
Okay, when did we start using the term unpack? Like we want to unpack your feelings. You want to unpack.
Yeah.
Have you heard that term before?
I have, yeah, and I can't tell you when I've heard
I
it.
don't. This is like it just came up last year or something. I mean, unless it's a term people much smarter than me.
I haven't heard it much, so
We need to
until now,
unpack-
you're right.
Yeah, we need to not in the physical sense, but in the
Mental or thought sense, yeah.
sense.
Let's just,
kind of dawned on me when we start using that.
yeah,
term.
yeah.
I mean, it's an okay term, but
Right.
it's kind of.
Is that this group of illegal covert human projects, they have surveillance, communication systems, transport systems, and sciences that are. Ben Rich, the week before he died, told James Goodall, you heard him at our conference, one of the last men to talk to him. He says, anything that you've seen in Star Trek and can imagine, we've done at the Lockheed Skunk Works.
Think about that statement. Anything on Star Trek? So we have craft that can go at warp speed.
Warp speed.
So we're already. Are we exploring other planets? Are we?
Do we know-
Are we on the Mars? Well, there's speculation that we're already on Mars.
Yeah, supposedly we were. There's I've heard a few things where we've been on Mars.
Yeah. You listen to a WF, that guy, Wi-Fi, with the talking goldfish.
Oh, yes, I've heard of. Yeah, I think you turned me on to
yeah.
him. Yes.
I listened to about the moon landings, and there's always speculations those never really happened.
Right.
And he usually debunks, whatever he's talking about at the end, and he says, yeah, they really were or whatever, but he didn't.
He didn't.
He listened to the one about the moon landing.
Right. And he did not try to debunk it.
No, and at the end, he's kind of like, this could be, and he's looking at different pictures, and he's, there's Max.
Hey, Max. My buddy.
Somebody's getting food delivered.
Yeah, and there's another dog out there, too.
Oh, is there a dog out there?
Yeah, there's a
he can't
husky.
see out the door.
Oh, I think he senses.
Max had, so for any Max fans out there, I have a couple. Max had back surgery this week.
Poor guy.
That was my week, and on Monday he had back surgery, and he didn't have his spine fused.
Right.
I think I told you that.
Yeah,
what
shaved.
happened. I was corrected by the neurosurgeon. That is but he has 4 screws. He had a slip disc.
He's a bionic dog.
He had a slip disc, so he got 4 screws put in his spine to keep his spine stable. And he's going to go back to what he was doing before, when he was younger.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
He seems to be doing better.
He's on lead, but the biggest problem was the haircut.
Yeah. Oh.
Everybody tells him how beautiful he is and how handsome he is.
Right.
And he just looks like one of those poodle cuts right now. And part of his tail, for some reason, had to be shaved off. I don't know if they were going to maybe think that it was.
Is that like where they check vitals and stuff? No, that was here.
No, in his front leg. And then that's the other thing. His front legs are shaved, cleared up and everything. That's what happens when you get a homegrown podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Not at Area 51, but at the desert base, the underground facility.
Let's get into the Disclosure Project. For 100+ years, advanced technology has been seized, isolated, and hidden away. This has suppressed the advancement of technology and human progress. The Disclosure Project archives include government documents from the United States, Canada, Australia, Russia, and the UK, 145 top secret facilities and base maps, 755 now, witness accounts from military, corporate, and government sources, 121 UFO crash retrievals.
Wow.
That's all in our archives.
Crazy.
What are some of the 145 top secret facilities that you know about?
Well, everyone talks about Area 51. That's an old one. It's still operational. And particularly, S3, S4, Pahut Mesa, out in Groom Lake.
Are these in the U.S.?
Yeah, this is Nellis.
Okay.
That one. And that's operational, has been since the 50s. A more state-of-the-art one is actually in the Dugway Proving Grounds, which is in Utah.
Is this the one that
Area
you
52.
disclosed at the
52.
conference?
Yes.
I'm going to put a picture up of it right now.
Dugway.
And so that facility, there's something called the Avery sector, Avery, where there are these assets. There's an extraterrestrial vehicle that was being studied there.
Fun, Matt.
When one of our witnesses, I think he was there in 2009, when that object had been downed. They're downed by these electromagnetic pulse weapons because the ET craft are completely electromagnetic. So,
All of them?
a kinetic weapon would not be so effective, missile or a laser. But an electromagnetic pulse or scalar weapon stuns them and they'll come down. Sometimes they crash, sometimes they're intact. If they're intact, then you have the whole thing to study.
So that's the 120 of them.
That's a gift.
Where are they? Where are they?
Yeah.
That's a lot of spaceships.
That is.
There's a vast underground facility there.
So they're downing these aircraft with basically a directed EMP weapon.
Yes, but are more sophisticated than the legal constitutional government would know about because you're going to add to normal EMP, let's call it a supercharged part of it that's scalar, what I mentioned before, where it's a point that goes out longitudinally without the waveform.
How does he know that?
So that's why light propagates at 186,000 miles every second. these are not limited that way because it's a point that goes out straight line. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
So now you're exceeding the speed of light.
It's essentially teleportation.
That's different. We'll get into that if you want to.
No, that's different.
That's Star Trek.
Type of
Yeah.
energy weapon. But it can also be used for communication. And I think in the old days, in the early 20th century, mid 20th century, there were people who stumbled across, and Tesla wrote about scalar waves.
So hold on.
So we're going to stop it right there. Stop the madness right there.
Part 3. 3.
Well, we managed to get to, they still have an hour and 33 minutes left.
What did we knock out that? Like 30 minutes?
We did that for another 30
Another
minutes.
30.
So I'll still do a narrative, I
Yeah.
don't know if that helps you.
It does.
So, it's, but we really appreciate Shawn Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Sean.
He's got one of my favorite interviewers.
Yeah, same.
So we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Pro Podcast. We welcome questions, comments, or requests to alienprobepodcast@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook. Check out our website, alienprobe.net. You can catch all our episodes there. Twitter and Instagram. We're fairly active on Twitter, not horribly, after
right.
Matt tells me how to use it.
X.
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 Sorry. I need
X.
to put X there. YouTube. Like and subscribe at Alien Probe Podcast. Thanks, Matt, again,
Hey,
for
thanks for
joining.
having
We got to
me.
head
My
off to
pleasure.
a MUFON meeting.
That's right. Here we go.
And we'll see you next time, and watch the skies.
That's right.